Many industrial engineers who have been archaeologists, many engineers who have been brilliant researchers, brilliant scientists. We're going to see here three symptoms that show you why you should be a scientist rather than an engineer. It's not bad, it's just the reality of things. And maybe it's important to remind that there are some slight differences between scientist and engineer. So, a scientist is someone like an archaeologist who is oriented towards theory, science, research. It's a more research oriented approach where technology is the focus. But on the opposite, engineering is a more practical approach, more contextualized. We take in account the application. So in the case of manufacturing, it's the industrial application. And then the focus is on problem solving. And you see here a difference. Technology and problem solving, those are two different things. Like on one side, you develop technology for the sake of science and improving science, but on the other side, you just want to solve a problem. And once the problem is solved, no matter what technology was used or what methodology was used or whoever was at the origin, in terms of human being, the most important thing is to solve the problem. So we are going to see here the three reasons that sometimes show you why someone should be a scientist rather than an engineer, because I'm seeing more and more people in manufacturing who have really a brilliant scientist approach, but they are really bad engineers, to be honest. So the first thing that tells you, the first clue that tells you that you should be a scientist is this fact of loving technology regardless of the ROI. So sometimes you will see people that wants to look smart or they want to abide by their own rule. They love the technical solution more than the problem that it actually solves. And that tells you that this kind of person should be a scientist. To be honest, they will be brilliant at research, they will be brilliant at things like archaeology, but in manufacturing, what matters is business. It's not a scientific research. In manufacturing, you need to prioritize the greater good of the business. So it's very important to pay attention like how we consider technology, because in manufacturing we shouldn't love tech just regardless of ROI. ROI is very important, problem solving is very important, and technology is just a mean to reach to your solution. So first clue, the first symptom that tells you you should be a scientist. Maybe it's a good advice for your career, I don't know, but think about it. If you see that you love technology more than the return on investment, maybe you chose the wrong path. Then the second symptom is preferring greenfield activity to brownfield activity. Just to define, greenfield is working on things from scratch, like creating a new facility, for instance, and brownfield is more like sustaining an existing infrastructure. So, for instance, maintenance activity or upgrades or retrofit activities. And you will see that people who are scientists, they prefer to start from scratch. They prefer greenfields because it gives them the opportunity to have more playroom, to have more experimentation. But if you see that you're a kind of person that gives more credit to greenfields than to brownfields, maybe you should consider going to science, because in engineering, brownfield is definitely something very important, because once the technology is deployed or once the manufacturing site is running, what's giving the ROI, what's giving the actual return on investment is production. That's where you get your money. That's what your business is about. And it's very important to focus on the brownfield running, improving it, upgrading it, sorry, rather than the greenfield. So if you consider that greenfield is more important than brownfield, if you give more credit to greenfield, maybe you should be a scientist. Then the third symptom or the third clue that tells you you should be a scientist is this mindset of no talk, just fix. There are some people who are just focused on doing something. There are doers, they will tell you that, okay, we are hands-on, we want to solve ourselves the problem. And the issue with that is in manufacturing, you know, the things that matter are not just the facts. Sometimes you will see more things that have impact on the business, like opinions or context or critical thinking. And if you are someone who is just focused on the facts, on objectiveness only, then you should be a scientist, because scientists, researchers, archaeologists, they prefer to work silently, with no opinion, with no critical thinking that can disturb the process. They love things like robots, AI, technology that doesn't take into consideration the context, and they love just the facts, the objectiveness. But in engineering, sometimes things are not so straightforward. The true experts, sometimes they express opinions that have nothing to do with the like objectiveness and the facts, but they are the solutions that will bring business, and that will bring return on investment. So that's also something you need to consider. If you are just like the no talk, just fix guy, maybe you should be a scientist. And it's okay, because uh, you know in science there are some things that are very important. You need to be very objective, very focused. But in manufacturing, other aspects are important, like cooperation or coordination, leadership, context, human beings, and all of that is very important if you want to be successful as an engineer in manufacturing. But it's also important to have good scientists, and if you are very successful on processing raw information into like objective facts, then maybe it's the path that you should go with. Just to conclude, those three, let's say, symptoms: loving tech, regardless of the ROI, preferring greenfield and brownfield, or being the no talk, just fix guy, those things should tell you which type of career you should go for. And it's very important to understand, because maybe for the last few years, you totally missed your core competency. And if you want to stay in manufacturing, you need to be aware that things like psychology matter, things like context, critical thinking matters. And you know, it's not enough to just be a highly technical person. You need to take into consideration other stuff. So being an engineer is not the same as being just a scientist. There are other aspects to it, and sometimes if you go into an engineering career, maybe you can be deceived because you thought that it was science. But if you go to a science career, maybe you will be deceived as well, because you thought that it was like shrinking, adjusting to the context, to the reality. But that's another job, that's the engineering job, and those are two different things. I hope you guys understand. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we see you in the next one.